like that?
Yeah, let's have you. There you go. All set.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rosa Cardenas. I am a member of UPLAN Governing Council. I am also representing Abriendo Puertas, Opening Doors in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I have 4 children, a 26, those are my babies, and an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old. I just want to say welcome. Thank you for being here. Why is it important to vote? For me, it's very important because I know I am the voice of my children. They cannot vote, and I need to speak up for them. I need to speak up because I want, more than ever, we've seen that inequality of education. I want a good quality education for them. Healthcare. We need to improve healthcare. We know it impacts our transportation, our roads. And I'm also aware that I am blessed to have the right to vote, the privilege. And I'm a member of a community where a lot of my neighbors, they cannot vote. They don't have that right. And I need to be the voice. I need to be the voice for them because we're all human beings. If we're here, if our children live in the same community, everybody should get a good quality education. We shouldn't worry if we have an emergency, is there gonna be care providers? What kind of care am I gonna have to get? So I understand. I feel responsible, but on the same hand, I feel blessed that I can be the voice for many of my neighbors, for many children. And I think I would like just to remind everybody of that. Even the people that cannot vote, they're still part because they're the ones reminding us what is it that they need. Why do we need to vote? So they're a big part. They are active. They are raising their voice as they can, reminding us and letting us know that, like, for me is don't make an assumption that somebody else is gonna vote. My vote is not gonna matter. Yes, it does. It matters. We need it. Our children need it. Everybody. And I just want to say thank you for having this conversation. Once again, I'm blessed to be in this space. Thank you for the opportunity. And on behalf of UPLAN, thank you for this important discussion. I will pass the microphone back to our presenters.
Yes, thank you for that. And I will toss it back to Michelle to give an intro for COFI and POWER-PAC.
Hello, everyone. I'm Michelle Morton. I'm from the west side of Chicago. I am the mother of 1 daughter. I would like to thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to be with us on today. I thank you all that in spite of all we're going through with remote learning, we still found time to stand up for our community by telling people why they should vote. Our vote is very important. We get things accomplished for our community. Our voice matters. In spite of what we think, not voting is not an option. We have to vote to get our voices heard, to make sure our children receive what they need and get everything that's afforded to them, and make sure they have quality education. This is a very important webinar to prove that we need to get out and vote. In spite of what others are saying, it doesn't matter. If you can't vote, you can also be a voice by getting others in your community to get out and rock the vote. Thank you.
Thank you as well. We will turn it over, I guess, to our team and to Luz and myself to do a brief introduction about who we are, and we'll jump into what RQI does with this presentation as well. Luz, you're muted.
All right. So I'm Luz Santana, and I'm the co-director of the Right Question Institute. Welcome all, and it is very exciting to have the opportunity to work with you today. As you know, we are facing some difficult times, and I would like to echo the words of Rosa and Michelle. These are times in which many decisions affecting families and our children are being made. And it is more important than ever to have a voice in those decisions. And voting is one way of doing that. Decisions are being made that will affect all of us, and they are currently being made as well. And it is very important to get more parents to vote and help them think that it's important to make connections about voting and to develop a sense of urgency so they will do it. So in this session today, that is what we will hope to accomplish. So Yeja, can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, my name is Yeja Dunn. I'm the program coordinator for the Why Vote Initiative. Essentially, it's our role. So I will be helping facilitate logistics for the webinar, as you've already seen. We will get underway.
Yes, and this is what we hope to accomplish today. So we would like to share with you a new model for engaging voters, a new model for engaging parents to vote. And we will explore a nonpartisan, simple, and powerful tool that can make parents make the connection between the services that are important to them and voting. So in this session, we will help you learn about the some tools that we have developed and how to share them with parents. And we have all the time been thinking about who can do this work of engaging people who usually don't vote. And in our work, we have seen that people working in the front lines, the direct services, working in low-income communities can play a very important role in getting people to vote. And including that are the parent leaders, the people that you work with. Also, people already working in voter engagement can make the tool that we will be sharing with you today part of the work. All right, and this is what we will be doing in this session. I will be giving you a brief history of the work of the Right Question Institute. I will walk you through the process of the Why Vote tool for voter engagement. I will work with you in looking behind the tool and why it works. And then there will be some time to think about how to use the tool with parents, questions and answer, and an evaluation. So that's it. This will be an active learning session, and Yeja is going to go through that.
Yes, so before we kind of dive in, we want to talk about how all the materials you'll see, the Why Vote tool and its supported materials are available for free under a Creative Commons license. So you may use them, disseminate them. All we ask is that you reference the Right Question Institute as you do so. Additionally, we like to make this an interactive webinar, and to do that, when you see this little computer icon, we ask that you interact with the chat feature of the webinar. Most folks are used to Q&A, but we use the chat feature. And so at the bottom of your screen, you'll see it as those kind of little boxes and little chat feature. And when you go into the chat, you want to be sure that you select all panelists and attendees so that everybody on the webinar can kind of engage in conversation. If you select all panelists, it'll just see us 4 on the screen and you won't be able to share with other folks. So make sure you select that. It's not the default. You'll have to do the extra effort to make sure that's done. We'll give you reminders as well. Additionally, we like to hear stories from folks about how they're using the tool. So if you are able to use Twitter, you can add us at WriteQuestion at LuzSantana20 and hashtag the Why Vote tool. And that can help us share your story to our network on Twitter as well.
And be aware that people at the Right Question Institute, they love tweets. So they would love to see what you are thinking about this session that we are facilitating with you today.
Yes. And we want to test out the chat function and give it a quick go. So in the chat box, you can put your name and what you like about being a parent leader. And make sure you select, again, all panels and attendees, and we'll kind of read that out as they come in. So everybody can kind of just take their time and share.
So what do you like about being a parent leader? Make sure that you share with all panelists and attendees.
All right, so folks coming in saying, I love seeing other parents gain confidence as they learn to share their stories and be a force of change. Erin, I like working alongside other powerful parents and hearing their experiences. I like being able to develop new insight on life. The opportunity to empower other parents. As always, I love to see families thrive. And Kate, I'm a friend of parent leaders. I'm a fan of their networks. Michelle, I love empowering other parents. Len, I like being a parent leader because I know we are the power force behind change. Thank you for sharing.
Right. So comments will continue coming. So, but we need to move on. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so a few little housekeeping items as we begin to jump in, but you know, at the end of the webinar, we'll try to send out an evaluation. If you have time, just let us know how you felt about the webinar, the content, the Why Vote tool. It's really helpful for our work. Additionally, you'll be able to download all these free resources at writequestion.org, as we mentioned. Our emails will be available at the end as well for any support in terms of using the tool or implement it or how to get it around to your community. We're always available for that type of support. And just look out for an email to stay in touch. We'll send a follow-up with a recording of this webinar, so you'll have access to it to share as well.
All right, so let's begin our session. So, and I would like to start by sharing with you the origins of the work or the strategy that we will be showing you this afternoon. So back in 1990, my co-director Dan Rostein and I were working in a low-income community north of Boston. And I'm broadcasting from that community right now, Lawrence, Massachusetts. And in Lawrence, we were working in a dropout prevention program with low-income and immigrant parents. And as we worked with the parents, we heard many times that they were not going to the schools because they didn't even know what questions to ask. When we heard that they had a need for questions, we came up with the list of questions we thought that they should be asking. And rather than helping, we built dependency, because every time that they had an issue at the school about child's progress, discipline, IEP, among others, they used to come and ask us, what should I ask? And after many times, we learned that it was not about giving them the questions. It was about developing the skill so they could ask their own questions in all kinds of settings and situations. And the parents show us that they could go a long way and navigate systems with that skill of question formulation. They show us that they were more effective when they were able to identify the decisions being made and then ask questions about the reason for the decision, the process that for making the decision, and then how they could have a role in that process of making the decision. So a lot came from what parents were thinking and doing. And right now, over the years, what we have done is to narrow down, distill what we learned from the parents and make it available around many different issues. So a lot from people who usually don't participate has happened as a result. And right now, that idea of asking questions has been introduced to the classroom. And there is this book that the teachers have been using, Make Just One Change, to teach students how to ask their own questions. And there are about 1 million classrooms that are using our strategy for teaching students to ask their own questions. And as you can see here, I'm not going to go over all the applications that we have, but it has been applied to healthcare. The Library of Congress is right now supporting a project with us to use some primary sources or materials that they have developed alongside with question formulation. And then, as you can see, there are many applications that are being applied to healthcare, to social services, to self-advocacy, and of course, to voter engagement. And this is the problem that we are trying to address with our voter engagement strategy. It happens that the lower the income level of potential voters, the less likely they are to vote. And in 2016, fewer than half of eligible voters living below the poverty line voted, compared to 76% of eligible voters earning $75,000 or more. So many of us are not making $75,000, and these 2 points show you that there is a need for more people who are low income to get out and vote. But then how do we do that? So, and I would like to share with you what is the right question voter engagement strategy. It is a simple process to develop a sense of urgency and motivation to vote. And it is very easy to use. And I hope that by the end of the session, we will have some ideas about how can you make it part of the work that you are doing. The strategy is complementary to and can be integrated, made part of existing efforts, focuses on having people name the value of voting opposed about being told what to do or to think. And then it takes advantage of hundreds of direct services programs around the country who can use this strategy and share it with the people that they serve. And here it is just a 2-pager, but don't be deceived by what you see and its simplicity, because it is packed with power, and we will be looking at that. So we are going to explore it. I'm going to take you through the step-by-step process of the tool so you will become familiar with it. Then after we go through the step-by-step process, I'm going to share with you why it works, and then there will be some opportunities for you to think about how you can use it with the families, with the parents that you are working with. So let's begin by looking at some examples of government funded services. And the services are organized in different categories: housing, income support, healthcare, schools, jobs, courts, children, adult education, and neighborhoods. And just be aware that there are other services that we don't have on the list. And what I'm going to ask you is to choose which 3 services do you think are most important to the parents that you work with or to people who work in your community. And if you don't see a service, please feel free to write it down. So I want you to choose 3 from the list, and if there is one that we are missing that you think is very important, you also write it down. Please share the services that you choose in the chat box, and make sure to share with all panelists and attendees. And we have about 1 minute to do that, and Jeja will be reviewing some of your comments. So choose the services, share them in the chat box.
Something: housing, income support, and children; schools, housing and jobs, childcare; housing, health, jobs, housing, jobs, income; neighborhoods, housing, income; healthcare, housing, income. There's definitely some repetition in themes.
Yeah.
School, childcare; English as a second language; schools, education, childcare, Head Start; housing, income, healthcare; childcare, unemployment, public housing; schools, healthcare, jobs. Yes.
Thank you so much, and thank you for sharing in the chat box. So let's move along. All right, so let's look now at the role of elected officials. Elected officials make decisions that affect all these services. And by voting, you can have by voting, people you work with or in your community can have a say in who's making these decisions. So now let's think for a minute, why would it be important for people to see for themselves the connection between services they receive and decisions elected officials make? Why would it be important for people to see the connection between services they receive and decisions elected officials make? And, you know, please share your thoughts like you have done before in the chat box. Make sure that you share with all panelists and attendees. And Jeja, please review just a couple of comments and then let's move on.
Mm-hmm. It makes it personal investment.
So this is not a test. Whatever comes to mind about why would it be important?
Mm-hmm. We have a voice in improving the quality of services, encouragement to vote.
All right, so there are some good reasons for parents, people to see for themselves the connection between services they receive and decisions elected officials make. So let's now look at some questions about voting. And what I would like you to do now is to very quickly come up with some questions you think people might have, parents might have about actually voting. So whatever question comes to mind, I would like you to post it in the chat box. Ask as many questions as you can, and let's make sure that we share them with all panelists and attendees.
Yes, I'm seeing people are still selecting all panelists. Make sure you do select all panelists and attendees. I'll still read out the ones.
All right, so I'm seeing some questions.
Yeah. Can I get a mail-in ballot? Can I vote if I have a felony on my record? Can I vote if I'm a felon? How do I drop off my mail-in ballot? Will my vote be counted? Will mail-in ballots make it to the Board of Elections? How can I make sure that my voter information is correct? How do I request a mail-in ballot? Where do I vote at?
So there was a question, what if I don't understand the ballot?
Good catch. Sometimes it can go really fast. Does my vote really count? Will this help my neighborhood? Will this bring more jobs to the community? Will my vote be counted? Lots of questions. How soon will I receive notifications that my ballot is received? How can I vote if I don't have a permanent address? Who to vote for? Who's running?
Well, and the questions will keep coming, but
Yes.
we need to move on. Thank you so much. So let's reflect on the experience for 1 minute, and through the different steps you thought about government services that affect people's lives. You reflected or thought about the connection between services and decisions elected officials make, and asked questions people might have about voting. So you did a lot of thinking and work in a short period of time. So let's now think about, what did you learn by going through this process? Or what are you thinking now? What thoughts do you have now? And please make sure to share with all panelists and attendees. So whatever comes to mind about what you learned, what you understood now that you didn't understand before.
Yes.
So thoughts about what you learned by going through the process I just shared with you. Or what are you thinking now after going through the different steps of the tool?
We have having a conversation about voting can remove a lot of confusion and uncertainty. A lot of us have the same questions. Yes. Well, for the sake of the time, I think people can still almost comment about immigration was helpful. It's not just services, but also policies. Yes. I believe that comment earlier was that immigration was not one of the services named.
Mhm.
Knowing the importance of voting. Yeah. Yes, and yeah, back for the sake of time, we will, I believe, just move on.
Okay, great. So let's look quickly at the components of the Why Vote tool and why it works. And this will be an opportunity for you to start thinking as well about how can you use this tool. So I'm going to do what we call unpack. We're going to look behind the tool. So I gave you an experience, and now it will be to look at the different component steps by step again. And you will see that the directions are a bit different, because when I presented to you, it was for you to think on behalf. This is the actual tool that you will be using with parents. All right, let's go, Jeja. So it is a 5-step process that is very simple and allows people to name for themselves the value of voting. It helps develop a sense of urgency to participate and vote. And it is a non-partisan strategy that encourages people to vote, but it does not encourage people to vote for a specific candidate. And that will be very important for people who cannot endorse candidates in the work that they do. It gives space for people to ask questions and identify obstacles to voting. And here is the tool. All right, so this design is informed by pilot work we did in different states around the country. And here are the components and how it works. So the first thing that people do is to get introduced to examples of government services. And as some of you mentioned in the chat, people can relate to these services. Some of these services are familiar to them, and they can identify clearly with them. So the first thing that they do is to review the services, and then they prioritize the services that are most important to them. Prioritizing is a very important skill because it is something that they can use in different settings and situations. So for example, you are going to have a conversation with your child's teacher. So you don't want to talk about everything. You want to select the main points that you want to discuss. So that is the skill of prioritizing. And the same thing goes with the questions. You might have 10 questions, but you know that there is not enough time to answer the 10 questions. So therefore you will choose from the questions that you have and will present the ones that are most important or the ones that you want to get answers. All right, so then in the second page, just a small amount of information is introduced. Elected officials make decisions that affect all these services. By voting, you can have a say in who's making those decisions. So the goal of presenting a small amount of information is for people to become aware of decisions elected officials make. So do you know when you share a lot of information with people and their eyes go blank because they cannot focus? It is too much for them to absorb. So here what we do is to have it in a way that they can actually focus on what is important. And then there is this reflection step in which they are prompted to think about why they want to vote and have a say on the decisions, that affect the services and the elected officials. And they think about reasons for voting. And this is different from trying to convince them that they should vote. It is about helping them realize, all right, so if I don't vote, other people will be making decisions about the things that I care about. They will be making decisions for me and my children. And then there is an opportunity to ask questions or being able to vote in the election. And here they identify the information that they want to get. Therefore, they set their own agenda about what they want to know. And they also identify obstacles, what might prevent them from voting. So here are some examples of the questions that we have heard working with parents and with different groups. Can I bring my kids with me? What if I don't know what to do? Can I get help? And what if I make a mistake? And some of these questions are similar to the questions that you ask in the chat box. People also ask on whether they will get punished. And if you look at the last two questions, what these two questions show is that people have many fears about voting. And that is due to some of the experiences that they have had with systems in which, for example, you apply for services and you fill out the application the wrong way, and then you get sort of punished for getting it wrong. So people very often are afraid of doing it wrong because they think that there will be repercussions. One of the last components here is to reflect and to think about what was learned. And this step allows people to think back about the work that they did and how they can use it further. Now, you might be thinking right now, all right, but we ask a lot of questions. So what do we do with the questions? Well, there are resources available to answer the questions. You might have some of the answers already, but then there are resources at the national, state, and federal levels that will allow you to see where can you find the actual information about voting. I know that there are a lot of community efforts who are more than willing to provide information about where to vote, how to vote, what is in the ballot, etc. All right, so now let's think for a second about what value, or now that we have reviewed the tool, what value or benefits do you see in the YVote tool for the parents that you work with? And we're gonna do about a minute and a half, and let's make sure to share with all panelists and attendees. And this is, whatever you think is the value or any value that you see in having a tool like the one we just shared with you. And Jeja will be reviewing a couple of your comments.
Stimulates thoughts about voting, gives them direction and clarity.
So how can this tool benefit the parents that you work with?
Parent-to-parent works. Allows people to ask questions about how to vote, so they can know they have a voice. By creating a personal investment, it will increase the motivation to vote, especially in a time when voting is becoming more difficult.
All right, thank you. Thank you. All right, so if you use the tool that we just shared with you, you will see that there will be 3 changes in the parents as you share the tool. There will be changes on what they know, how they feel, and what they are able to do. And in the know, and this is yours, Jeja.
Yes, and so we have some quotes from individuals that have used the tool. It's at the welfare office that we learn our voice doesn't count. But after the White Question Institute's workshop, I see that our voices do count and we need to vote. I see that if I don't vote, then other people are going to keep on making decisions for me. This gives me a chance to have a say in who's going to be making those decisions. In terms of how people feel, I have never voted. I feel really strong about voting now. It would make a difference. It made me feel that voting is very important so your voice can be heard. Then some quotes around do. I think it's really important to write the vote. I will vote for the next presidential election. I don't think I have ever had a student who has voted before. After doing the workshop, many students actually voted. They come back really proud. They went to the county elections and voted for the school board. It actually makes a difference.
All right, so as you saw, there are changes on what people know. They are able to make the connection about the value of voting. They feel that it is urgent to vote, and many of them actually vote. All right, so very quickly, I would like to share about how to use the tool. If possible, we recommend that you lead parents through this step-by-step process. And one rule is that you are presenting the tool to them. You are engaging them to think about the services that are important to them. You are not telling them what they should be thinking, doing, or asking. It is for them to have that ownership and to establish that connection between services that are, or things that are important to them and voting. And then if you are going to give information related to voting, polling places, registration, etc., do it after guiding the parent through the different steps in the process. And then this is something that you can customize, you can adapt, you can make it part of your work. You know best how to use it and how to include it in your community. So I'm not telling you, you have to use it exactly the way that I'm telling you to use it. You know best, and very often, if you are in the schoolyard now that I know also that there are not that many opportunities, you will walk a parent through the process, and you will have a conversation with them using the tool. You might not be able to use all these steps, but you try to cover as much as possible. And again, there is a small change or shift in practice. We might be used to give people information and talking to them about what to do at the beginning of the conversation. So you just give a small amount of information to keep them focused. You are not telling them that they should vote or trying to convince them to do so. You allow them to get to their own conclusion about why they should do it. And you are not deciding what information to provide. You allow them to set the agenda through the questions that they ask. And these are very simple things to do, but it might not be that simple when you try it, because that's not the way that we are used to work. So at the beginning, it will be just a bit rough, but if you do it, if you turn the thinking over to the parents, you will see that it will work and that it will be very effective. All right, so I just said that you are the people who know how to adapt it. So let's think for a minute about making the tool part of your work. And again, you know how to include it. So what could be some examples or opportunities you have to share the tool with parents? And as you think about opportunities you have to share it, think about when you can share it and how. And please make sure to share it in the chat box so we can learn from each other by doing this step. So Angela will be reviewing some of the examples that you shared.
We have at the pickup time at the daycare center. And a quick, can you repeat the question? And the question is, what are examples of opportunities you have to share the pool with parents? When and how? We have during parent policy councils, as well as at pickup times at the daycare center. Just want to highlight that one again. I think for the sake of time, we will move ahead, and we have actually some other ways, suggestions on thinking about this.
Yes, so you can use it as a script for a conversation at a family center. And right now, many of them might be closed, but I hope that we can get to a new normal and that they will be open. You can use it as a script during phone calls and while talking with other parents, and it can be at the school, it can be at your neighborhood as well. You can share the handout, and you might also talk with teachers at your school so they will share the tool with other parents through an assignment that they give to students. And this last example is one that someone implemented and shared it with us. So am I in for this one, Jeja?
Correct, yes.
All right. So, you know, you have, as parent leaders, a lot of skills that you have developed over the years. And one of the things that you want to do is to build the capacity of parents, empower parents so they can participate and take action. You want to share the skills that you have been able to master with them, so you will have more parents participating. So today we share with you a tool that will be very easy to make part of your work, and that it will help parents make the connection between what is important to them and voting, and also set an agenda for what they want to learn about voting. So I would like to share with you this picture. There are two women. The woman on the left is Septima Clark, and probably you know who the woman on the right is. That is Rosa Parks. So Rosa Parks is very well known, and Septima Clark is less known, but Septima is one of the greatest educators of the 20th century. And she was a teacher in the South Carolina public schools, and she got fired due to her participation with the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP. And here is Septima. and here is her cousin who owned a beauty salon, and initially they began to teach people in the beauty salon how to read and write, because that was the ticket that they have to be able to vote. So she funded the citizenship schools in order to help people. And Septima said that we need to be taught to study rather than to believe, to inquire rather than to affirm. So waking up parents so they can participate, so they can set the agenda about what they know, so they can think about how they want and can take action. It is a very important skill to improve the children's education, but also to strengthen democracy.
Yes. And now we're going to hit the point where we're kind of hitting our takeaways and wrap-ups. But we want for today's takeaway that the Why Vote tool is a tool you can make part of your work and make it yours. And so that's, if you take anything away from today, that is our ask. Additionally, I know there's some comments about youth and engaging with the youth. We do have the Why Vote tool for youth. And so what we did here was, instead of talking about services, we talk about issues that might be important to youth. So we changed the design and worked with one of the educators, and we're able to create this. We will share this as a resource post-webinar, but also it's a free resource that can be found on our website. Additionally, we have an online version, our interactive tool. This is where an individual can play the video and kind of do the process you did at the very beginning and type their answers into questions and do that online versus a hard copy. And so this is our beta version, and we're gonna release one that is a little bit more streamlined, hopefully by the end of the month, and that can be done online as well. And so we just ask some next steps, if you have the capacity to do so, is help us reach new voters, share this tool, and invite 5 people to our next webinar. That will be September 21st at 3 p.m., so next Monday. We'll summarize this again in the email.
And there is one in Spanish on the 17th.
Yes, and one on Spanish the 17th for COFI and UPLAN. Receive support using the tool. We're always available if you have questions about how to use it in your community. You know best, but we're here to provide any sort of help that we can. And we'd like to share your story again. So if you're able to use Twitter at RightQuestion, at LuzSantana20, and hashtag the Why Vote tool.
All right. So we have an evaluation, right?
Yes. So we have the evaluation, and look out for an email from us about the recording of this webinar and the resources, including the links to the video and the resources in Spanish and English that can be found on our website for free.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so and Jeja, before I would like to open for questions, and I know that we are running out of time, but I would like Michelle and Rosa to somehow close this session for us before we take questions that participants have. So Michelle, Rosa, whatever you would like to say after going to this experience for participants?
For me, I think I would take it into consideration not to give so much information. You are right. If they're already confused and not sure, I think too much information would not help. I think that's very valuable. And again, just remind them that it's not just about the presidential, but there's a lot of local and state decisions going on at the same time. So there are many reasons why we should be part of the voting.
Thank you so much, Rosa.
I think this is a very valuable tool, and it will help a lot of people get a better understanding of why vote and how to vote. I really enjoyed the webinar, and I appreciate you guys for taking out the time to do it with us.
Thank you so much. And you know, in some ways we owe it to you all, and the work on parent engagement is always very exciting to me, because you know, the work with parents is what has made so many things happen across fields. So I will encourage parents to continue sharing their thoughts, what they see, what they know, because you can get a long way with that. So the work that the parents began in Lawrence, Massachusetts, it has had repercussions in everything that we do across fields, from early education to higher education to self-advocacy. So it was a very, very important what parents share. And I'm sure that you are learning from parents, and I will share, you know, that as well. So thank you so much, Rosa. Thank you, Michelle. And I think that we just have time for a couple of questions, but other questions we will be able to address them probably in the follow-up. So Jeja, there is someone asking for the link in the chat.
Yes, what link to the next webinar is that? I'm just gonna stop sharing my screen so they just see our faces. This will allow me to go grab that link real quick.
Or the link to the evaluation.
Yes, so I'm gonna go put that in right.
So do we have questions that we need to answer now? All right. So it seems that there are no questions. If you think about questions later on, please feel free to send them to us, and we will do our best to address them. Thank you so much for coming to work with us. We really appreciate it. And hopefully we will be hearing from you about how you are sharing the YVO tool. Thank you.